Hello folks and welcome to Jiffy Info. After playing Uncharted 4 Thief's End recently, I was a little bit lost for words. The game blew me away on multiple occasions and I couldn't recommend this game enough, as I truly see it as a marvel in game creation. But I also couldn't help but feel there was something missing. I originally put it down to that feeling you get after you've opened all your presents on Christmas Day, that feeling of, what now? So, in seek of closure, I started a new game. This time around I decided to turn a critical eye to Naughty Dog's final entry to their most successful franchise. Please be aware, although I'll be mainly focusing on Uncharted 4, I'll be referencing Uncharted 1, 2, 3 and The Last of Us, so spoilers for all 5 games will follow. Upon setting eyes on the Naughty Dog logo at the start of Uncharted Drake's Fortune, I made the assumption that my money was well spent, and being a fan of both Jak and Daxter and the Crash Bandicoot series, I felt my confidence was well placed. The release of Uncharted 4 marked what I would consider to be one of the best game sagas I've ever played. That being said, the Uncharted series, although superb, is not without its flaws, and although I've picked up on number 4, Uncharted 4 Thief's End compelled me to make this video, as the latest installment's faults are, in my opinion, more prevalent than its predecessors. If we look back at Uncharted 3, it's scenes like this that start to capture the humanity within the protagonists. I remember this scene sticking with me far more than watching Elena at death's door at the end of Uncharted 2. I believe that's because this
I'm sorry.
Seems real. I love this ongoing character development. It's something that's really scaled up even more in The Last of Us. Now, I'm not here to compare The Last of Us and Uncharted. I'm just pointing out the obvious progression. Unfortunately, I think the progression from The Last of Us to Uncharted 4 was in some ways to the latter's detriment. I respect the same team worked on both titles and the transition must have been pretty jarring, but nonetheless I think the transition causes Uncharted to feel a little slow. So let's look at the opening for Uncharted 4.
Good. Hold on! Nathan! They're gaining on us! I know! We'll crank it! Sam, I'm going as fast as I can! Shit.
As expected, it's a massive opening, a technique that Naughty Dog by now is very familiar with.
On your right! Watch it! Oh shit!
Once we've blasted our way through that big opening, the game calms us down to allow some strong narrative and character development.
You still dating that girl?
Oh, Crystal? On again, off again. Currently off again.
This sequence serves its purpose as a platforming tutorial and introduction to the new grappling hook. I'd like to praise Naughty Dog here. This is undeniably a cool feature and it's handed to you right from the start. It irritates me when games give you a badass game mechanic right towards the end of your playthrough. This area is well structured for what it is, and by the end we understand Sam and Nathan's relationship.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so at that juncture we're thrown back into the action we all know and love.
We weren't fighting, huh? Right, little guy?
Once this short fight sequence plays out, we sit through a cutscene, an interactive cutscene, and then when we're finally given full control, we're dumped back into more platforming. You are given more freedom in this section, and you aren't prompted on how to get from A to B, but at the end of the day this is a linear game, there's only so much variety that can be offered. After you've navigated your way to the top of the tower, you're introduced to the first puzzle. Unfortunately, this puzzle's answer is virtually handed to you on a silver platter. Even with the hints turned off, the button prompts basically serve as hints anyway. The main problem I have with this puzzle is that it's piss easy to begin with. Force feeding you the answers just makes it seem like the developers think we're a bunch of fucking idiots. Anyway, once you've made your way back to Vargas, you hide the crucifix, not a crucifix, somewhere, and get escorted back to your brother Sam and the new antagonist, Rafe, who, by the way, I'm at odds to whether or not he's my favourite character. As you reach the end of this trio's discussion, you are quickly surrounded by the bad prisoners, forcing you to fight your way out. It's worth mentioning at this point that there have been no guns since that big opening at the start. With regards to the hand-to-hand combat, I promise you I'm not trying to pick out flaws here for the sake of it, this is just dying to get mentioned. Why on earth did Naughty Dog not implement a block system? The previous installments used a counter system. That worked fine. If they really wanted to be rid of that, why not have Nate block attacks? As it stands, you have to roll out of the way of an enemy attack. For what is otherwise a visually appealing hand-to-hand combat system, this weird decision to have Nate roll instead of block attacks just ends up looking clumsy. They also got rid of the grab mechanic from Uncharted 3. Now, this would have added a nice bit of variation to the brawls, but beggars can't be choosers. And I don't want to harp on about this, but who in their right minds would roll out of the way of a right hook anyway? I do, however, really like the new dual takedowns, especially as it happens on the fly. Although at times your NPC friends can spam that move quite a lot.
Jesus, did you have to pick on the most popular guy in this joint?
I didn't hear you vote.
Guys, save it for later.
Once you close the door on this punch-up, we are treated to a great cutscene that allows more depth to be handed to Nathan's character.
Any of you ever cross me?
Jesus,
That's that.
are you out of your goddamn mind?
You want to find out?
Guys, what are we doing here?
We're sticking to the plan.
Was this part of the plan?
Just follow me.
This reaction
Come on, come on!
suggests that Nate is yet to be desensitized to death.
Rafe, where are we going here?
The lighthouse. Vargas said the boat is right under the lighthouse.
But which way?
This chase sequence is brilliant, and the great sound effects are put to good use as the gunshots and alarms add a lot to the mayhem.
Give me a hand.
Hurry up!
There, soldier. We got it.
Let's go!
Come on. I don't see the lighthouse.
Now let's just get away from the guard.
We are treated to the emotional pull here at the end, and Sam falls to his apparent death, and Nate understandably takes it pretty hard.
The other arm. Come on, reach. No! Stop!
I won't be commenting on the facial animations all that much during this video, but I can't help but mention how taken back I was at Nate's expression here.
No, I can't.
The slightly quivering bottom lip, the real shock in his eyes, it's incredibly realistic. I could mention several more examples, but the facial animations are consistently fantastic, so I'll just leave it there. I also really like how Naughty Dog forces you to make the ultimate decision to run away once Sam has been shot.
Oh God, no.
It would have been very easy for them to continue that shortcut scene as Rafe and Nate make their escape. I have an image of Nate disappearing into the brush as the camera pans up slowly to reveal their escape route. Instead, you're forced to take control of Nate, meaning you, the player, will also carry the guilt of leaving Sam behind. It's a small but very effective design choice, one that goes a long way in drawing you into the game's story. It's elements like this that really make the difference between traditional film and games, but I'll be saving that for another video. It comes as no surprise that a high-octane scene is followed by a slow, serene section. There's a fair bit to be said about this area, but I'm only going to touch on a few key elements. Early on in the scene, it's established that Nate's oxygen levels are running low, and I believe that this has connotations in and of itself. Nate is still keen to continue his search, foregoing the obvious risks. And when we learn the true nature of this job, we can assume Nate's likely searching for any form of excitement, as this is clearly a very mundane position for him. I also like this exchange.
Hey,
By my watch, you're down to a quarter tank. You want to come up?
Nah, I'll be fine. Can't be far.
If you don't find it soon, I'm calling it.
I'll find it.
Alright.
It highlights that Drake's ego still hasn't wavered. Here, Nate is handed a crowbar to open up the crate. It seems whichever path he takes, he still finds himself uncovering lost items. When they crack open the crate to see what they've retrieved from the wreck, the choice of copper, essentially a dull gold colour, helps emphasise how Nate's life seems to have lost excitement.
Dad, we struck copper.
Although I really do like the big reveal that they are actually treasure hunting in New Orleans, the only reason there is actually much of a surprise is the fact that the bottom of the New Orleans River apparently resembles that of somewhere far more exotic. Even though we're out of the scuba suit, we still dive further into Nate's normal life. Office space, filing cabinets, far from what we consider synonymous with Nathan Drake, but this seems all too familiar for our main protagonist. Strolling around the office area, you can interact with various mementos from previous Uncharted titles. Upon picking up these items, I couldn't help but smile and reminisce, just like Nate's doing himself. But I'm quite a cynical person, so after playing this section the second and third time, I started to consider what I was actually looking at. From my perspective, this is pandering. It's nice that you're able to look at these items, but I often find subtlety is a far better approach. I would have preferred seeing these items dotted around the office just for you to merely observe. Instead, lingering triangle button prompts invade the scene.
In the middle of a jungle. Who would have thunk?
They should have just had a massive arrow above each item saying, "Interact with me." I'm fond of Easter eggs in games, but I think this button prompt business undermines what would have actually been a really nice dose of nostalgia.
Miss you, pal.
I could say the same when you forced to play Crash Bandicoot, but my fondness for that classic has got the better of me.
Crash Bandicoot.
By the way, as a little side note, it's nice to know Nate recycles. Now I said I wouldn't be bringing up facial animations again, but I've changed my mind. What I'll be doing is picking out a few animations that really do jump out at me. One of them being Elena's fake pensive expression.
Really?
It's excellent. There's no other words for it. I wanted to acknowledge it just because it really did strike me as realistic again. Something else that really caught my eye here. As Nate poses the question back to Elena, you can tell that Elena's voice actress, Emily Rose, slightly mimes Nate's line. Watch Elena's mouth when Nate says you.
Hey, are you happy?
Yeah, of course. You?
Honestly, this tiny detail just fascinated me. It's amazing to see a Freudian slip as intricate as this appear in a video game. So that's it for this episode, but before I go I want to address something I said at the beginning of this video. The Last of Us is a slow moving game where the atmosphere and tension are key factors. Without these key factors, the game would have most likely failed. When I said the progression from Uncharted to Uncharted 4 was to Uncharted's detriment, I meant that the slower gameplay of The Last of Us isn't what I wanted. If I had to choose the most memorable parts of the Uncharted games, I would pick the Heart of the Vault sequence from Uncharted Drake's Fortune, the train sequence from Uncharted Among Thieves, and the plane sequence from Uncharted Drake's Deception. My point is, these are massive, gun-heavy action set pieces. Uncharted 4 isn't void of these, trust me there are some magnificent ones thereon, but when starting a new game in this last installment, my first thought is, oh yeah, I have to, for lack of a better term, make it through these slow sections first. I'm aware of the select encounter feature, which is a nice addition, but the action falls short with zero setup. Besides, after completing an encounter, you can only either replay that very encounter, or get booted back to the main menu. I acknowledge my thoughts on this clearly pose a catch-22, and I hate bringing up flaws without offering an effective solution. However, after an hour into an Uncharted game and having only shot 6 enemies, I feel like I can be forgiven for thinking something's wrong. I'm not an advocate for pointless, non-stop action, but for a game labelled as a third-person shooter, there appears to be a severe lack of shooting. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you found my viewpoint insightful. If you would like to see more videos like this, then consider subscribing, that'd be great. If you enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it, please like or dislike as you wish. And yeah, I will catch you folks next time.